Welcome to episode 2. I'm Dylan.
And I'm Sam. And this is the Last Minute Sports Podcast.
What a week.
Yeah, it was a great week for sports news, and specifically our favorite, the NFL. So Dylan, let's talk about our biggest shock of the week in the sports world.
It's got to be Trey Lance's ankle injury.
Yeah.
Got to be.
For sure.
Out for the season, totally derailed his stand for him. But I think they might be in a better spot at quarterback.
I think so too, because Jimmy Garoppolo has proven to be a winner. While Trey Lance is clearly the future of this franchise and has a much higher ceiling, Jimmy Garoppolo has proven he's taken them to a Super Bowl. I think his record with them is like 39-15, which is ridiculous.
I think it's 39-18. But
about there, yeah.
He's taking them to an NFC Championship this past year.
Super Bowl
against Kansas City Chiefs. Almost won it too.
Very close.
Kansas City pulled a Kansas City that year and came back in the second half like they did all their playoff games. Every single playoff game. But I do think Jimmy G is the right move here. Don't get me wrong. Horrible that Trey Lance got injured.
I did not like that Jimmy was smiling.
No,
you saw that?
We all saw that. Everyone did. Twitter saw it. Everyone was tearing Jimmy.
Yeah.
It was very sinister. Everyone saw it. And it was... I did laugh when I saw Jimmy G smiling because I thought it was very funny. But horrible. I wish Trey Lance a speedy recovery.
All right, so my shock of the week is actually going to be Ime Udoka being suspended for the entire season. Now, right now, it's being reported that it was a consensual relationship with a female staffer, but I think if he was suspended an entire season, it's more than it seems. It's not just a consensual relationship.
Yeah, I mean, it totally derails the Boston Celtics' possible playoff run this year. I mean, they were just in the final last year, and they did a pretty decent job. I mean, you have the young talent of Jason Tatum, and I want to see where they go this year. Can they make the run deep without their head coach for the entire year? I don't know.
I don't really think so, because I think that such a big change in why they completely elevated after that All-Star break was Ime Udoka, and not having him there, it's going to be a big hit to them.
Mm-hmm. So many big things happened this week, but those are our two major caveats of the week throughout sports. So, Sam, let's get straight on to the games of the week.
All right, let's start with the first game of last week, Chargers and Chiefs.
Chargers-Chiefs, whew. What a game.
This was a really good game, and I think what it really showed is that the AFC West is going to be so competitive for so long, because both these guys, they're long-term franchise quarterbacks that are going to stay with their team. But I also think it proves another thing, something I believe, that the Chargers aren't legit. Now,
I completely agree with that. I mean, Justin Herbert, we all saw he got hit. He's currently day-to-day with that rib injury right now in the cartilage. And the issue is, I mean, without him in the game for a while, they just seemed a little slow.
Yeah, I mean, he came back. He took a big hit. He threw that laser, that deep pass. But I think it proves that the Chargers are going to be the Chargers, right? They're going to choke games. They're going to be 9-7. And honestly, I do not think they are a legitimate contender.
I love Justin Herbert, great quarterback. It's more or less, I don't think it's the team. I really think it's the coaching around them.
The culture, too.
I mean, no offense, out of all the teams in LA, it's got to be the Rams.
Yeah.
The Chargers should have stayed in San Diego. I'm sorry.
When you have teams with cultures like the Bills, with that fun culture, and it's like guys
jump through a
excited.
table.
Right. You have the culture like the Patriots where they're so serious. You know that they're going to be legitimate teams, whether it's a super serious or super fun atmosphere. But when you have this atmosphere where it's just uncertainty, the teams are not going to succeed. And that was pretty clear in the Chargers game.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, Chiefs definitely do look like a threat again. Patrick Mahomes being the great quarterback, he is phenomenal. Could make another deep run to the playoffs, like always.
I'm actually quite surprised on their success in the passing game without Tyreek Hill, but it allows them to go more places and have more plays, because they would always have Tyreek Hill double teamed, but now Mahomes has to rely on more of this short passing game. I think it's really showing that he is the best quarterback in the league.
Yeah, I mean, we all knew that Travis Kelce was going to get a lot of reps. It wasn't a great game receiving for him, 5 receptions for 51 yards.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the fact that he gets open so much, and not to mention, let's talk about Travis Kelce real quick, getting body slammed by Derwin James. Apparently, according to Travis Kelce in their own podcast,
I saw it,
he said that Derwin James came up to him to make sure he was good after that play, and that was hilarious.
I don't think it's a clean hit. It's not something you see in football, but it was hilarious watching that. He got pile drive.
The fact that it was Travis Kelce, who's like 200-something pounds, giant man, getting picked up by Derwin James and body slammed to the ground.
Personally, I believe Derwin James is the best safety in the league, I don't think
Minka
it's really
Fitzpatrick and Derwin James are up there in that conversation.
Yeah.
I don't really know who else I would put up there. Maybe Jesse Bates. But right now, Derwin James and Minka are so high up there.
The clear best safeties.
All right, so let's move on from that Thursday night game, and
Yeah.
let's go to one of the most disgusting games. I shut it off, actually, around the third quarter. The Indy Jaguars game.
Yeah.
Indy's in trouble.
Let's be honest here. Based on the first 2 weeks that has followed the Colts' curses, right, of losing opening games, or not losing, tying, and losing to the Jaguars in Jacksonville. But in all seriousness, yeah, the Colts...
I mean, you can't put any points up. I mean, yes, they were missing the maniac Shaquille Leonard in defense, and that is a major star power that is gone from that defense, and they're also missing Pittman.
But one player does not excuse being shut out by 24 points.
No,
that does not excuse it.
I'm sorry, but, like, you have receivers, you have them. I mean, none of them are as good as Pittman on your roster, but they got to be able to catch the ball. Matt Ryan making some questionable reads. He had 3 interceptions.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did not know
one of
that.
them might have been his not his fault because he got hit while he threw, and it's just like one of those ones where just you don't get
Pop
the full
fly.
arm motion, and it's just but one of them earlier in the game, which I thought he was hit while he threw, he wasn't. Just horrible toss.
What happened with Matt Ryan? I know ever since 2016 he wasn't that top 5 quarterback level, but he was that consistent 4,000 yards, 30 touchdowns every season.
This is honestly a hot take. This might sound dumb to some people. I do think Matt Ryan is haunted by 28-3, and I think the Hall of Fame ball got in his head a little bit. I really do. I don't know, because he opened up Twitter, some social media, and saw people are being like, 28-3, you know? And it got in his head. It might have.
And it was a great game by Christian Kirk. Now, I still believe he's overpaid, but a great game for Christian Kirk. I believe he had almost 100 yards, and I know he had 2 touchdowns.
He had 78 yards for
78.
6 receptions,
I
but
was
he
gonna
did
say
have
that.
2 touchdowns.
Yeah, big game from Kirk, and Trevor Lawrence looked good.
Trevor Lawrence did look good, yeah.
Against a pretty good Colts defense.
Yeah, the Colts defense, I mean, obviously, like I said earlier, they are missing their biggest star, really. The Maniac is their biggest star. Yeah, Trevor Lawrence looked like a first overall pick their second year.
For the first time.
For the first time, yeah. I mean, you have to remember Urban Meyer's not in there anymore.
Big difference.
But you could see the coaching is a lot different.
It was even just a big step up from last week. He threw 2 picks last week against really a pretty bad Washington secondary. And speaking of 28-3, let's move on to the Falcons-Rams game where the score of this game was 28-3. Rams were completely ahead, and then the Falcons came back. Now, the Rams still won. But, I mean, this is scary for the Rams, even though they won.
Yeah, it is definitely really scary for the Rams. I do think they let up in the second half like the Rams do. We saw it last season. They were up big. We saw it in the last game of the season, actually, against the 49ers. They were up 21, I think, to like 3 or something at that point, and they just put their foot off the gas, and they lost that game.
49ers ended up winning that one. And it was a decent game from Stafford. He did not look like last year, and clearly that shoulder's still...
No.
The elbow, excuse me.
Yeah, the elbow is still bothering him.
For sure.
Probably. He did look better. He looked better than he did week 1 against the Bills.
Yeah, Cooper Kupp, just a phenomenal game again, proving why he's... Well, I would actually... to me, he's the second best receiver. I have Jefferson over him.
Yeah, he is proving himself to be a, not top 5, but a top 3 receiver in the league
100%.
at the moment. Really solidifying that breakout season he had last year is showing that it's not a one-time thing that some receivers have.
Stafford actually threw to other receivers not named Cooper Kupp. Higbee had 6 catches. Allen Robinson had 4, and his first touchdown was around. That was probably...
He actually should have had
happy.
2, but they called a play dead earlier in the game because they called a timeout, but it was my bad. It wasn't a timeout. It was an injury timeout that the whistle was blown after the play already started.
I mean, if the play starts, just let him finish
Yeah.
it. And a move I saw from them was the Rams took a safety, like last play of the game. I don't understand that because I know they do that before. When the Ravens did in the Super Bowl way back in 2013, I think it was a good call. But in this case, they still had 7 seconds left in the game. Enough time to get maybe a 15-yard return and throw a Hail Mary.
Yeah, I want to get back to that real quick, but there's one person you forgot to mention that I know fantasy owners are glad to see back. Cam Akers did actually have rushing yards this game. Apparently, he's by the looks of it, he is out of Sean McVay's doghouse.
As a Darrell Henderson fantasy owner, I was not happy to see Cam Akers back, but yeah, it's always good to see Cam Akers run the football.
So back to what you said about the safety, Sam. And what I thought was interesting is technically after safety you punt, right?
Right.
On the 35-yard line you punt. But on the Rams game, he punted it out of bounds, and it was ruled a out-of-bounds kickoff.
I think because technically it is a free kick, it's supposed to be the kickoff, but a punt. I understand that.
It's an interesting call. I mean, obviously, it's something that you don't see happen too often. So the logistics of it, I'm not pretty sure of. But
Yeah.
it was an interesting call, and I know someone I know was complaining about that because he's like, but it's not a kickoff. And it really matters how you look at it. I would like to see how the NFL responds to that because I know some people on Twitter were complaining.
And also, I'm not sure that even in this scenario, cause I normally, as soon as the ball is kicked on a punt, the clock starts running. On a free punt or a free kick like that, I'm not sure if it works like that.
I know the clock didn't start in the Rams game. I know I was watching that. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
But
again, that I don't get. I think it was a bad call for the Rams to actually take the safety and really give them a much better chance.
yeah, I feel like if you were further up on the field, it would have been a smarter call because you could have ran back and had a lot more time. But considering I think they were on their own within their own 30,
26.
Yeah, it just wasn't the smartest.
But you know what? The Rams got the win. They're looking like the best. I don't know if they're looking like the best team in that division. It's really close.
The fact that Jimmy G's back definitely gives 49ers a better shot at making it to the playoffs and a Super Bowl.
Agreed.
This coming week, the Rams do play the Cardinals, so that will be an interesting game.
Yeah.
So moving on, Cincinnati Bengals, former runner-ups of Super Bowl 56, and the Dallas Cowboys with Cooper Rush as their starting quarterback.
Yeah, Bengals are the disappointment of the season. I mean, to go from a Super Bowl run, which I think, in my opinion, I think it was a fluke. I think the Bills, the Chiefs were much better teams than the Bengals. But it's a real disappointment to see Joe Burrow go from playing ridiculous at the end of the season to having 5 turnovers in week 1, and I think he had maybe 1 or 2 this week, and losing to the Cowboys without Dak Prescott. I mean, come on.
Actually, Joe Burrow did not have any turnovers. He did fumble it, but he did get it. They did get it back. Let's talk about Cooper Rush. Actually looked pretty good. 19 completions for 35 passes. Attempts.
There you go.
Which isn't great, but as a backup quarterback, it's pretty good. And 1 touchdown.
He's 2-0 in his career. He beat the Vikings on Sunday Night Football last year.
They both had in both game-winning drives.
Right, and I mean, no surprise he beat the Vikings. It's Kirk Cousins on primetime. We'll get to that later. But Micah Parsons leads the league in sacks already with 4. He's averaging 2 a game. He's on pace for 34. Not going to happen. We all know that. But Micah Parsons proving why, in my opinion, he's already a top 5 defensive player in the league.
Personally, I think Micah Parsons is going to might be a hot take. I think he might have been the best pick from the draft last year. I mean, Jamar
100%.
Chase might be up there offensively, but I think overall Micah Parsons is just ready for the NFL.
He's the Deebo Samuel of defense. He can play anywhere that's not in the secondary. He's played D-tackle, he's played D-line, he plays edge, he plays coverage. I mean, he's ridiculous.
Honestly, I have, before the season even started, I had Micah Parsons winning Defensive Player of the Year, and there's honestly a chance, and I certainly believe it because he has 4 before Week 3 even starts. There's a chance he could break Michael Strahan's and T.J. Watt's record.
Yeah, I mean, T.J. Watt, I should have broken it last year. But, I mean, both these guys, T.J. Watt would have been my depoy, but now. All right, let's move on to probably the most shocking team that's not a disappointment is the New York Giants.
2-0. Can you believe that? 2-0.
They have played bad teams like the Titans. Well, the Panthers are awful. Matt Rule's, to me, the worst head coach in the league. It's not close.
I believe Matt Rule's up there with the top 3 coaches who I think is going to be out of the league by the end of this year.
I don't know how this is his 3rd season. How did he make it through 2? It's ridiculous. And the Giants' defense looks great.
Yeah, Giants' defense looks scary. I'm not sure. Was Kayvon Thibodeau back in there, or has he not played yet?
No, he's not played yet.
So you're still missing a first-round draft pick being Kayvon Thibodeau. And coming out of Oregon, it most likely means he is ready to start right away.
And Daniel Jones has looked good for Daniel Jones standards. He hasn't looked great, but if the Giants can get into these games where it's a 1-possession game and they kind of have that lead the whole time and their defense is carrying them, I think they have a chance to get the 7th seed.
Yeah, I mean, Giants' first time in 6 years that they started 2-0. And I believe that 6 years ago was the last time they ever made the playoffs. But yeah, Giants really haven't played anyone. Everyone thought the Titans were going to be good this year. They've kind of been disappointing. We'll talk more about that later. But yeah, Saquon. Saquon wasn't as good, obviously, as his Week 1. His Week 1 performance was
72
phenomenal.
yards. His running average was pretty bad. 3.4
Yeah,
yards.
3.4. But Saquon did look better than normally because we all know Saquon soon. Let's hope Saquon doesn't get injured. I'd love to see Saquon get back.
He's leading the league in rushing right now, looking great. But it does concern me a little that he did only have 3.4 yards per carry against a pretty bad Panthers defense.
So you said earlier that the Giants defense looked great, and it did. But let's talk about someone that absolutely demolished them. Christian McCaffrey, 105 rushing yards, no touchdowns. My apologies. He looked great.
Yeah, 6.8 yards per carry is great. McCaffrey's not back to that 2019 form. Honestly, after 2 years of injuries, I don't think we'll ever see him back to that form. But
speaking of Christian McCaffrey injuries, he has been placed on the injury report this past week. He's expected to play this week, but he was reported as
what's the injury? Do we know?
I believe it is just soreness in the legs, but that leads to
he'll play.
I think it's like an ankle injury. I'm not sure. It just specified something in the ankle.
It would be ridiculous if he did play of soreness after he's missed like 30 games in the last 2 years.
I'll have to look back into that, but I'm pretty sure it had something to do with his ankle.
And I think just a theme that has been present ever since the Panthers 2015 Super Bowl run, their passing game it's awful. It's really bad. I mean, their leading receiver had 43 yards, and that's DJ Moore.
Well, just for example, right now, I mean, we're talking about the Giants being 2-0 right now. I'm just going to make a quick parallel to college football. Duke and Kansas are 3-0. That's going to be the same
basketball
balls.
Schools.
Speaking of which, they play each other this weekend, and I like to call it the basketball.
Ha! That's pretty good.
Because they both. So I don't know. We'll talk more about that later after we get to college football. I just like to make that comparison because no one expected those teams to be 3-0, and the Giants are 2-0 right now. So it's sort of giving me the same vibes. Let's move on to, in my opinion, one of the worst games of the entire week: New England against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, this one super close, but pretty boring. You don't really hear a lot of news out of it. Mitch Trubisky playing pretty bad.
Yeah, Mitch Trubisky just did not look good. I would like to see the Pittsburgh Steelers rotate their quarterbacks a little bit more. By rotate their quarterbacks, I mean him and Kenny Pickett. I don't really want to see Mason Rudolph. Najee Harris still didn't look great. I mean, he looked better than week one.
I think he's still a little banged up. Mac Jones, to me, is by far the most overrated quarterback. There's nothing special about Mac. He is a worse Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, no one really on the Patriots had a great game, and nobody really on the Steelers also had a great game. But the only person in this entire thing that had a semi-decent, but pretty good, actually, is Nelson Aguilar.
Big game from him. That ridiculous catch that led to a big touchdown. But I think just the Steelers, not the Steelers, pardon me. The Patriots are just the most mediocre team in the league. Just so average.
I honestly wouldn't be shocked if Bill Belichick hangs him up after this season. He might stay on as general manager, but I wouldn't be shocked if he hangs him up as coach.
I could definitely see it.
Brady era's over. He's getting a little older. I honestly think he might hang him up.
I think after last year, they kind of that probably gave him the spark because they did have a pretty good season. But I mean, this year they look so average, and to get blown out in the playoffs last year that badly, it's got to send some messages to him that he might wanna hang it up. Now, speaking of the Patriots, let's go to the Bucs and Saints, where Tom Brady, just another mediocre game. I mean, something's up with him.
We don't normally talk about fantasy on this, but Tom Brady, I think, has averaged about 9.2 points this entire year. Don't get me wrong, Tom Brady is not a fantastic fantasy quarterback, that's not great.
Bucs defense has been insane. They're averaging 6.5 points per game allowed. And they've looked really good, but I mean the biggest thing in this game was the brawl between Marshawn Lattimore and Mike Evans.
I mean, we all expected it. It's always happened between Mike Evans and Marshawn Lattimore, even before Brady even got there. It happened when Jameis Winston was the Bucs quarterback. I do stand by the fact that Marshawn Lattimore was not suspended. Don't think he should have been, and I'm glad they didn't. There are some people complaining about it, and most of those are Buccaneers fans.
I don't think Mike Evans should have gotten suspended. It was a shoulder check to the back. It's not like it was out of nowhere. Marshawn Lattimore was talking to his quarterback. And the appeal too, his appeal got denied. I think Mike Evans should be playing in this game on Sunday.
I really do agree with that, but the issue is Mike Evans has a track record with this type of stuff.
Definitely.
So that really adds to it. It's not necessarily his actions, but it's his actions again.
Yeah.
He did get suspended, I think, last year, the year before, for the same exact type of thing.
In 2017, the exact same thing between him and Lattimore.
So he has a track record like this, and you're obviously not going to get off easy when you're used to it.
You also love to see, though, a receiver like that just, like, protecting his quarterback, looking out for him. Although the brawl was actually originally between Fournette and Lattimore. Brady got involved. Then Evans came out of nowhere and hit Lattimore pretty dirtily.
Speaking of quarterbacks, Jameis Winston, not great.
That LASIK wore off. I know we talked about last week how the LASIK is working. Yeah. No, it wore off.
I found this out before the game even started last Sunday. Apparently, Jameis Winston was playing with 4 or 5 fractures in his back.
Wow.
No offense. If you have 4 or 5 fractures, it's not just pain. It's rotating. It's all that. You shouldn't be playing.
Especially in your back, the most important part of your body. It's all your movements. And to play with that, I mean, they don't really have any better options. Taysom Hill is not a quarterback. He's a flex. And
we've seen that. We've seen Taysom Hill play as a flex this year, and he's looked good.
Really good. Winston threw 3 picks. That's Buccaneers Winston.
It's Jameis. It's not FSU Winston. It's not last year's Winston. It's Bucks.
Yeah.
Chris Olave, second game as a Saint, second game ever in his career. Pretty good stats. 5 receptions, 80 yards. I think he's going to be great. Michael Thomas obviously looked back again.
A very similar stat line to last week. 2 weeks ago, sorry, he had 6 catches for 66 yards, 2 touchdowns. This time he has 6, 65, and 1.
The thing that did spoil Chris Olave's game, though, was he did fumble, and he did lose that fumble.
Yeah. It just a defensive game until the end. It was 3-3 for a while. Bucks come away with the win after a beautiful Tom Brady pass to I think it was it Perriman or was it Scotty Miller? I think it was Perriman that scored that. Yeah, it was Perriman.
It was Perriman.
Yeah.
In my opinion, game of the week here, folks. The New York Jets against Cleveland Browns. I never thought I would say that, but I honestly do think this was the game of the week.
Joe Flacco is 3rd in the league in passing yards, but passing yards are not that important of a stat. But what the last 2 minutes for the Jets.
Yeah, minute 44 left. Cleveland Browns had a 99.7% chance of winning that game. The Jets held on to that .3 and took it.
A big thing is that Nick Chubb, instead of sitting at like the 1 yard line of that touchdown, he took it in. And 2 years ago, it was Browns Texans. He had an easy touchdown, like a 80-yard touchdown, and he sat and they won because of it.
It also gives me big Todd Gurley vibes. I personally, as a Rams fan, love Todd Gurley. Saddest story, in my opinion, in NFL. Great career, and then just got derailed by injury very fast.
When he did against the Lions.
Against the Lions, it's giving me the same vibes because he did the same thing on the Rams multiple times at stopping at the 1 yard line and letting time run out.
Yep.
But he failed to do it a couple years ago against Falcons Lions, and Lions went on to win that game.
Let's talk about Garrett Wilson, who had a great week, 2 touchdowns. His first one, he ran a nasty little double move to the inside, faked, ran a fade.
My opinion, best receiver from 2022 draft.
So far.
That's a hot take. I personally thought he was the best choice. I am glad the Jets took him because they did need help in that wide receiver room.
I believe that Jameson Williams is going to be the best, but he is still out for a while. I've actually heard nothing about him in a while.
I'm pretty sure he's expected to come back from week 7 forward. I'm not sure because he did tear his ACL and you don't want to rush a rookie.
Yeah, you really don't.
Joe Flacco looked phenomenal. Garrett Wilson, phenomenal. And let's talk about it. His second game ever as a Brown looked a lot better than week 1. Amari Cooper.
Great game. Yeah, a lot of people were like, whoa, Amari Cooper on a new team. What's he going to do without Dak? What's he going to do without Derek Carr with a pretty bad quarterback in Jacoby Brissett? But he did look good. He had a big game.
Yeah, pretty similar stats between Cooper and Garrett Wilson. Pretty much identical, just a difference of 1 yard in 1 reception.
Yeah.
And 1 touchdown.
And actually, this week was the first time in 13 years that the Jets, Giants, Jaguars, and Lions all won on the same day. That's just an insane
It is also the
stat.
first time since 2009 that every single New York team won. The Mets, the Yankees, the Giants, and the Jets all won.
We need it. Once basketball season starts, maybe we'll get the all 6.
Yeah, let's talk about one more player in this game, and then we'll move on. Jacoby Brissett actually looked good.
Yeah, I think... Honestly, I'd rather him say the quarterback because Deshaun Watson. We all know Deshaun Watson.
We all have our own personal opinions about Deshaun Watson. I was obviously not rooting for the Browns in this game. I was rooting for the Jets just because I like Garrett Wilson, and I thought it'd be funny.
I will never root for the Browns as long as Kareem Hunt and Deshaun Watson are on that team because, in my opinion, neither of them should have jobs in the NFL. And you thought that was the game of the week. I think Dolphins-Ravens was the game.
That was also good. Oh, my God.
A 21-point comeback in the fourth quarter by Tua Tagovailoa.
Greatest quote in the post-game press conference by Mike McDaniels. I said to the guys before the game last night that I wanted to see them come back. I think they took that a little too literal.
Yeah, they did.
And I love that quote. That's a great interview quote. It shows that you kid around, but you're serious.
Because Tua in the first half did not look good. He had 1 touchdown and 2 picks to Marcus Peters. All of a sudden, once that fourth quarter hit, Tua became Mahomes.
Yeah, Tua, 4 touchdowns in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, so first time in NFL history a player has thrown 4 touchdowns.
So there are 2 quarters in this game that the offense of Miami just didn't show up.
Yeah.
I know the Dolphins defense did get lucky earlier in the game because that Lamar Jackson touchdown did get rolled back.
Then they fumbled.
Then they did fumble it, so they got bailed out there. Duvernay starting the game off with a kick return. I'm pretty sure that is the first kick return touchdown of the season.
I believe so, and as a Bills fan, my dad and I were so hype watching the Dolphins get kicked in the nuts on the first play, but I mean, it's like I can't be that mad that the Dolphins won because it was a great game. Now, I will say, I'm going to probably get a lot of hate for this, that Tua's all of his major stats in this game did come from wide open passes. He had that 10-yard completion to Waddle that ended up being an 80-yard gain, and then he had the 2 deep passes to Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, I mean, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle this entire game were just running verticals. If you really watch it back, it would be interesting to see how they perform this coming week
against the Bills without Micah Hyde.
But that's still a great defense. I mean, it's going to put pressure on the offensive line and everything, so it's going to be interesting how they perform.
Yeah, especially because those deep passes that Tua threw to Tyreek Hill in the fourth, they were underthrown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we all saw it. Tyreek Hill had to stop for him. It's the same thing everyone's been making jokes of this entire offseason. Let's finish off one more thing. I just want to talk about 2 more plays. Rashad Bateman and Mark Andrews looked great. Both had over 100 receiving yards. Mark Andrews once again proving why he is a top 3 tight end.
Bateman's breaking out this year. He had a great game week 1. I think he had 60 yards on a touchdown, and this week he had 104, I believe.
He had 108 for a touchdown, so he averaged 27 for 4 receptions, which is phenomenal.
I think the Dolphins are going to be a playoff team. They're not going to win the division because the best team in football is in their division. I do think they are legitimate contenders, though, for sure.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the real America's team. The Detroit Lions. Congratulations to them. They did not start 0-13 this year. Let's get a round of applause real quick. 1-1 first ever team to beat the Washington Commanders.
Yeah.
A phenomenal game, getting a 22-0 lead at halftime.
So Amon-Ra St. Brown is
so good.
He's breaking out big time. He's going to be, in my opinion, a top 12 receiver at the end of the year. And Amon-Ra St. Brown knows every single receiver that was drafted in front of him, and he keeps like a list of it. And De'Ami Brown, the Commanders, I believe, 2nd-round pick last year, played against them, and St. Brown made some comments and was like, "Oh yeah, I didn't see Brown out there," and Amon-Ra went off.
Yeah, so let's start. Amon-Ra St. Brown, obviously player of the game. He rushed for 68 yards. I'm pretty sure that was on Jet Sweep. He had two carries for 68 yards. But not only that, he had 9 receptions for 160 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he had close to 200 yards between rushing and receiving.
He had 40 fantasy points. Probably the
phenomenal
fantasy like sleeper of that of last week.
DeAndre Swift once again looked good.
Yeah.
And all that. Jamal Williams, they're using him back and forth. They're sort of giving me Jonathan Taylor and Naheem Hines vibes from last year Colts.
Swift is top 5 in rushing right now, and I just saw a stat about 10 minutes before Dylan and I started recording that the Lions have the most big plays in the NFL. They have 19 plays over 20 yards in 2 weeks. Ridiculous.
Okay, also talking about the Lions, let's move over to defense real quick. 2nd overall pick of the year, Aiden Hutchinson, with 3 sacks. 3. Personally, I think Aiden Hutchinson should have been number 1. No offense to Trayvon Walker, I just think Aiden Hutchinson was most ready.
Trayvon Walker, that combine really set him up, and I don't really think a 3-day combine should change draft stock that much. It really could just be if you're having a good day or a bad day, but Hutchinson balled out.
I'm not going to bash Trayvon Walker. He did look good in week 1 and he looked decent last week, but I do think Aiden Hutchinson was the right pick.
Carson Wentz is, he's playing pretty good. Commanders lost by 15 points, but Wentz is 2nd in the league in passing yards.
Yeah, the Commanders' offense just couldn't get... I don't know if it's that they couldn't get it going in the first half or just the Lions defense was just there so often. The Lions defense is phenomenal. Speaking of quarterbacks, Jared Goff, phenomenal game from Goff. 20 completions to 34 attempts, 256 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. That is one of the best games Goff has ever had in the past couple of years.
Yeah, they still need a quarterback. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I don't. I think there's 7 teams that are clearly better than the Lions. But I don't see the Lions make the playoffs. They need a legit quarterback. I think, honestly, they should tank for Bryce Young, but they're not going to. Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud, you said earlier?
C.J. Stroud, or honestly, if it matters what their play style is going to be, but they could try to tank for the Georgia quarterback, Bennett Stenson.
I think Bryce Young fits their culture better, more like just methodical passing down the field.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you that the Lions might not make the playoffs. There is definitely a chance because they are in the NFC, and the NFC is definitely weaker this year. I wouldn't hate to see the Lions. I mean, I love the Lions. They're my neutral team. It's hard not to root for them.
Yeah.
MCDC.
But when it comes down to it, they have Jared Goff. He's not a good quarterback. Straight up, there's no other way to say it. He had the good year in 2019, but he's not that good. And he's not going to be the guy that in those moments is going to show up clutch, lead you those game-winning drives that make the difference in the playoffs. And moving on, we'll move on to the Seahawks 49ers. And we mentioned it earlier, Trey Lance out for the season. A huge loss.
Yeah, Jimmy G coming in, 13 completions to 21 attempts, 154 yards and 1 touchdown. He's Jimmy G. Looked great. Had some stuff that was kind of complaining about, but his first game back.
Yeah, and Geno Smith, considerably worse than he played against the Broncos. He had a pick, less than 200 yards again, and I think the biggest problem with the Seahawks is their lack of a rushing attack. Rashad Penny, 6 carries for 15 yards. Kenneth Walker, who was super hyped out coming into this draft, only 4 for 10 yards. They rushed for only 36 yards.
Yeah, the Seahawks did not look like the same Seahawks they did. I wonder if that Jamal Adams missing is really felt in the defense, which is a possibility because that is a huge major star that is gone for the entire season.
And even the passing game, I mean, Tyler Lockett, 9 catches, 107 yards, great game. DK Metcalf, 4 catches for 35 yards. I mean, DK is physically the most gifted receiver in the NFL. This is your guy you need to be getting the ball to as much as possible. Screens, slants, goes, I don't care. You need the ball in DK Metcalf's hands.
Yeah, they have some stuff to fix, which we all knew this. We knew Seattle wasn't going to be great this season.
No.
It's a shocker that they beat the Broncos.
Huge shocker. Nobody expected
But
that.
moving on, speaking of the Broncos, they looked horrible. Russ was indeed still not cooking.
What happened is, I know there's a lot of altitude in Denver, and it messes up a lot of cooking, but what is going on?
That was a horrible analogy. Yeah, but Russell Wilson, 14 completions to 31 attempts. That's less than 50%. 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 3 sacks. Horrible.
I mean, this is, I think, we keep saying shock of the year, but the Broncos, a lot of people had them winning the division. I have the Chiefs, clearly the best team in that division.
I did have the Chiefs winning.
But
I might have had Broncos actually at the bottom.
Big loss, Jerry Jeudy, I believe, is out for a couple weeks. He got hurt with a shoulder injury. And to win by 7 against the Texans, who have arguably the worst roster in the league, with their best player being Brandon Cooks, the Broncos don't look good, and I don't think they'll make the playoffs.
No, just letting you know, Jerry Jeudy earlier today was announced that the injury is day-to-day, but it is the team's decision and not the players, so that could mean he is going to miss a week or 2.
Yeah, I'm always on the train that if a guy is on the fence, you should always lean towards sitting him. Let him be healthy. Don't let him re-injure it. And who do the Broncos have coming up this week?
The Broncos this week, Russ will be cooking up against the 49ers.
That's going to be a big test because 49ers have a great defense and the Seahawks don't have a great defense. The Texans don't. The Broncos are seriously in trouble. I think a big thing is Nathaniel Hackett, the horrible play calling in week 1 with that field goal. Something's up in Denver.
There's a lot of things in Denver that don't click right. I mean, your best player on defense is in their second year, Pat Surtain.
Yeah.
And then you got a brand new head coach, and then you got a veteran quarterback that, no offense, doesn't look like he's taking over an offense.
I firmly believe Russ, when that 2019-2020 Russ was exceptional. Still, he's never gotten an MVP vote in his career, but I don't know what happened. That injury last year must have really messed him up. And let's move on to a comeback I actually think is a little more insane than Cardinals-Raiders. No, sorry, this is Cardinals-Raiders.
Yeah, this is correct. You mean then Falcons-Pats?
No, God, what are we on?
Dolphins. Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, sorry.
Miami Dolphins. Okay. I'm sorry, there's a lot of comebacks that are insane in the NFL.
It was a really insane week for comebacks. You had the Jets, you had the Cardinals, and you had the Dolphins, all down from like 15 or more.
Said the name Underdogs for episode 2, since week 2 was such a big comeback.
And Kyler Murray, that 2-point play, that put him within that put them within 8. It was Kyler Murray ran around the pocket for 20 seconds, ran it in, great play, saved them in that game.
Great play by Kyler Murray, but 20 seconds. How, as a defense, I'm not complaining about the D-backs because there's only so long that you can hold someone in coverage, but as a line, how can you let a play and a quarterback run around for 20 seconds and proceed not to throw it in, but to run it in?
It's awful. And the Raiders do have a pretty good D-line. They have Max Crosby, but Kyler Murray ran a total of 80 yards on that play alone, and that play was ridiculous. And it showed because the 2-point conversion that tied it and sent it to overtime, Kyler ran a while for a lot and threw a strike to A.J. Green.
Yeah, a little sad thing coming up here on the Raiders side. Devontae Adams' grandparents saw him play for the first time ever. And he only put up 2 receptions for 12 yards and 1 touchdown.
Complete shift from week 1 where...
He was also targeted for 7 receptions.
Carr's almost every completion in week 1 was to Devontae Adams. And this week, clearly the Cardinals' game plan, Budda Baker and Isaiah Simmons, and who's the guy that scored the game-winning touchdown? It was... Oh, I know he has like 3 names... Oh, Byron Murphy. Clearly they game planned to cover Devontae Adams.
I was really upset, personally, as a fantasy owner of Devontae Adams. I lost fantasy by 2 points last week. But yeah, no one really had a great game. I mean, Mac Hollins, shocker. Yeah. No one thought that Mac Hollins would be number 1 receiving yards in this game.
Interesting stat. Kyler Murray before last weekend in his career, we mentioned this last week, 0-33 on a double XP weekend. This last weekend was a double XP weekend. Kyler gets his first career win.
I think he was just super excited for Modern Warfare 2 to come out. I believe it came out last weekend. He was just super excited getting the game over and he wanted to go back home to Arizona.
Yeah, and great win. And do you see the thing that now they're investigating a fan that hit Kyler in their celebration? I saw the video. It didn't really look like much. It just like they was trying to reach.
So as of today, Sam, I saw the video once again. It just looked like it was a mistake. The Kyler Murray said no hard feelings. They stopped the investigation as of today.
As they should. I don't think it was a big deal. Kyler looked more surprised than pissed, which really shows, I think, that it was a mistake. And we got to talk about the Raiders because 0-2, I think out of the 6 0-2 teams, they are the most likely to make the playoffs. A difficult division. They've only played 1 out of their 6 divisional games, and it's something's going down there.
Yeah, I mean, it's really tough. The question is, do you still stick with Derek Carr? I mean, he hasn't won a playoff game for you guys yet, and he's been there. I mean,
I think Carr's in that kind of like 14 to 10 range in quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And I think with Devontae Adams, I think he needs a learning curve. I think he needs to balance throwing to Devontae Adams and his other great weapons in Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller. And I think that it's going to take some time, and I think that they do definitely have a chance at the playoffs.
Yeah, but that's going to be an interesting way that the Raiders develop throughout the season. But once again, coming back from a Week 1 loss, same as last year, the Packers win 27-10 against the Bears.
Aaron Rodgers' quote from last year, he still owns them. He will. The Bears prove that they are a pathetic team, and the Packers they're not going to show that they're a Super Bowl contender, because it was against the Bears. Mm-hmm. But the Packers, great game from Aaron Jones.
Yeah, worst performance, I think, so far of the year, and probably will be of the year by a quarterback. Justin Fields, 1 interception, 7 completions to 11 attempts, 70 yards.
I believe this season, Justin Fields has 30 pass attempts total. The Bears need to throw the ball. I know run game is what sets up the pass game, but they don't really... David Montgomery had a pretty good game, and Justin Fields runs the ball well. But passing, it's a passing league. You need to pass. You have a quarterback. Throw the ball.
I would say that Damian Pierce and some other rookies were the most overhyped player in fantasy. But in my opinion, it is Darnell Mooney. He has not shown up this entire season so far.
I'm a big
he actually
Darnell
had
Mooney fan.
he had -4 receiving yards this past week.
It's probably a screed, but
Probably, or just one of those behind throws. It's just he needs to get his act together. He was expected to be the wide receiver 1, and he's not even looking like a wide receiver 3.
Darnell Mooney is a great contested catch receiver, and I think a lot of that stems from the problem that the Bears just aren't throwing the ball. They have 17 pass completions this season. No team is going to be successful completing 17 passes in 2 games.
Just for reference on how bad the Bears were in this game, their punter had the best stats. 4 punts for 198 yards.
Wow.
It is really
a little
sad
under
when
50.
your punter has the worst stat, the best stats.
Aaron Jones, 42 fantasy points. Great game. He had 3 total touchdowns, I believe, and I think this is what the Packers need. They need a game, 2 touchdowns, sorry. The Packers need a game where they can run the ball with Aaron Jones, they can run it with A.J. Dillon, and Rodgers can be the most accurate quarterback in NFL history, as he is. And this is what the Packers need to do going forward. They have bad receivers. Christian Watson didn't show. Alan Lazard did have a touchdown in his first game as a wide receiver 1. But this is what the Packers need. They need to keep doing this.
Yeah, so Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson's, like you said, just didn't really show up. But let's talk about the person that was, in my opinion, a shock that showed up. Sammy Watkins. Great game. 3 receptions, 93 yards.
I'm probably the biggest Sammy Watkins fan you'll ever see. I have a signed hat by Sammy Watkins. I love him. I have 2 Sammy Watkins jerseys. And it's always great to see a guy on your former team that you really love succeed in another place. And I think that he can be that rack guy that Green Bay needs.
Yeah, I personally feel the same way about Brandon Cooks. Was on the Super Bowl team with the Rams. He was only there for a couple of years, but I love Brandon Cooks. But yeah, Bears need to get their act together. They got a lot of stuff to fix under new head coach, second-year quarterback. It's a tough franchise.
They're going to be bad for a long time. Let's move on to my favorite game of the week. Bills-Titans. I'm a huge Bills fan. This was amazing.
Yeah, so it was amazing. Josh Allen looks like an MVP caliber quarterback candidate. Phenomenal stats right now. But I think this game was more or less of not how good the Bills looked, but how bad the Titans were.
I think that the Titans are a bit better because there's no way that AFC South division can be that bad. I think that the Titans probably will win the division, but I don't know if it was the Bills' great run defense or Derrick Henry's just complete fall off. I think it's more the Bills' run defense. I don't think you can fall off a cliff literally that bad. He only had 26 yards rushing. The Bills' defense, Matt Milano had his first ever touchdown. That's great to see from the best coverage linebacker in the NFL. Poyer had a second pick of the year. Bills' defense was exceptional.
Yeah, we're really going to have to check with Derrick Henry next week. They do play the Raiders in week 3. Obviously, their front force, is good with Max Crosby and Khalil Mack. Mm-hmm. But we are going to have to see.
You know what? Stephon Diggs, he's coming for Cooper Kupp's Triple Crown. Stephon Diggs is having a great season. He had 144 yards and 3 touchdowns.
I love Stephon Diggs. It's hard not to hate him. Obviously, his most memorable play is still the Minneapolis Miracle. It's going to be tough to top that. I know as a Bills fan, you are like, that the play is not a Bills game, but it is such a great play.
He is him.
Yeah.
I don't know why people doubt him. He's clearly a top 5 receiver. To me, he's the 4th best in the league. And he is I think he's underrated in the rack game. He does great spins and jukes after the catch.
Yeah, once that game got to the 4th quarter, I pretty much shut it off because the Bills pulled all their starters.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. Ryan Tannehill, will he lose his starting job?
I think there's a really good chance that by around mid-season, maybe after the Titans have their bye, which I believe is in Week 7, that we will see Malik Willis make his first career start.
Yeah, Ryan Tannehill had 2 interceptions, but no touchdowns, and he barely had a 50% completion.
And in that game, Malik Willis, for the quarter he played, looked pretty bad. I know he was going up against the best defense in football. He took some big shots on that, too.
Yeah, Malik Willis was very ballsy on that drive. It's going to be really interesting to see how he performs. But you got to remember, what round was he drafted?
He was drafted
late.
4th.
Yeah, so you have to remember, 4th round draft pick, first-year quarterback. It's going to be interesting. And also, you don't really have that veteran mentor because Ryan Tannehill refusing to do that.
Who do you think's going to win the division? It's clearly the worst division. They have 1 win total, and the Jacksonville Jaguars have it. They're not a playoff team.
It really matters, in my opinion, if the Colts get the Maniac back in time. If they get him back by week 4, there is a chance they can turn it around. but honestly, I do think that the Jaguars have a chance.
I think we could see this division play out like the NFC East in the COVID year in 2020, where literally the division winner has like 7 wins.
I completely agree with you. Final game of week 2, Kirk Cousins, primetime, looking like Kirk Cousins in primetime as always. Eagles win 24-7.
So Jalen Hurts, people are saying he's one of the MVP candidates. I disagree because he has 1 passing touchdown. He has like 4 rushing touchdowns, but he still played very good.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I mean, Jalen Hurts looks great, especially that Alabama quarterback curse, as I like to call it. They're not phenomenal. But yeah, he looked good. But yeah, I don't agree with the whole MVP candidate.
No.
His passing stats aren't there.
And maybe I'm surprised we haven't heard people call him a running back yet, but the Eagles have the best rush attack in the league. And right now, I think that if you look at the best team in the AFC and the best team in the NFC, I think they both played on Monday night. I think the Eagles look like the best team in the NFC, and I think the Bills are the best team in the AFC.
All right, so let's talk about the Vikings. Kirk Cousins' favorite receiver, Darius Slay. 2 interceptions for the man. Great play. I think it was 5 pass breakups. His stats against Justin Jefferson were great.
Oof,
he gave up.
JJS had 2 catches, right?
He had 6 catches, but only for 48 yards. But I'm not sure how many were against
2
Darius
were against
Slay.
And for like 18 yards. And one of Slay's interceptions balls went to James Harden. Random fact, just threw it out there.
Yeah, I did see that clip. I laughed my ass off when I saw that because I thought it was very funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins.
Slay. He really came to play. Big play. Slay.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins just once again proves to us why he is not him during prime time.
And let's be honest here, I don't really think it is just Kirk Cousins playing. I don't think it's that he plays bad because it's prime time. But I think the Vikings are doing what they have been doing for the last 3 years and just really being that 8-8, 9-7, 10-7, 9-8 team.
Yeah, there weren't any good stats all around. I mean, Dalvin Cook only had 6 rushing attempts for 17 yards, no touchdowns.
He only had 6 attempts?
He had 17 rushing yards, yeah. And then, obviously, Justin Jefferson, which everyone thought he was him last week, only had 48 receptions.
I didn't watch...
48 receiving yards.
That would be really impressive if he had 48 receptions. I didn't watch that game because I was watching the Bills game. I did watch the highlights. They kept cutting back and forth. And honestly, I saw this idea on TikTok. Get rid of Thursday Night Football. Give us 2 Monday night games every week.
I love that. Thursday Night Football is just not it.
I love Al Michaels. I don't want his job to go away. But Thursday night always has the worst matchups, and it doesn't fit in with the whole weekend theme of football, and it's too long of a break between Thursday and Sunday.
So speaking of worst matchups on Thursday night, this past Thursday night was the Steelers at the Cleveland Browns, in my opinion.
Our first game of week 3.
First game of week 3, and I think this could honestly be the worst game. It's bad. It was bad. I watched it.
It was high scoring, 29-17 in the Browns' favor, but it was not that offensive attack. Mitch Trubisky, I think Kenny Pickett needs to start.
Yeah, we really need to see what Kenny Pickett has to offer. It wasn't that he was bad, it's just Mitch Trubisky just didn't have that starting quarterback attempt.
It's such a shame. I'm a big Trubisky supporter. He's a former Bill. I think he was wronged in Chicago. But with the coaching staff with Brian Flores and Mike Tomlin, it's Mitch. It's not the coaching staff.
I'm going to do a speed run here of the skill players real quick. Najee Harris looks so much better than he did the past 2 weeks.
Touchdown.
Deontay Johnson, phenomenal once again. 8 receptions, 84 yards. Pat Freiermuth, pretty much lacking until the fourth quarter. And then OBJ 2.0 catch. George Pickens, what a phenomenal catch.
NFL young boy. He has got that dog in him, for real. And what a catch. Just falling back. It was like you said, OBJ 2.0. The catch was very similar to OBJ's catch.
I dare say it was harder because he went vertical. Not vertical. He went horizontal more than I think OBJ was slanted.
I would say OBJ's catch is better. But I actually don't believe that OBJ's catch is the best in history. There's one that this random Bears player made on a Lions player. He caught it around him.
Mm-hmm. My favorite catch in history is technically not a catch. It is the Franco Harris touchdown, where one of the receivers gets hit and Franco Harris on the run catches it going all the way.
Reception.
The immaculate reception. I love that play.
I just remembered the Bear. If you guys want to look it up, the Bears catches Marty Booker. Just look up Marty Booker one-handed catch. To me, the best catch in the NFL.
Yeah. So Jacoby Brissett once again, not even horrible stats. 21 receptions for 31 attempts, only missing 10. 220 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Jacoby Brissett looks like a really good backup right now.
Yeah, and I wish he was the starter, but
He's giving me big Tyler Huntley vibes from last year. Tyler Huntley, phenomenal backup last year for the
is
Ravens.
he still on the Ravens?
I think so, yeah.
But let's be honest here. The greatest backup Ravens quarterback in NFL history is Trace McSorley.
That is true. The greatest backup quarterback in NFL history is, say it with me, Ryan
Foles.
Fitzpatrick. Okay.
If we're being serious, it's Nick Foles.
Oh,
We've
yeah.
never seen a guy
take
take over like that.
But overall,
fan favorite,
career-wise, I gotta say Fitzpatrick.
I'd like to see him on the Thursday night crew too.
Yeah, I said to my my dad when we were watching the game, I was like, there's 3 GOATs there and Richard Sherman. I said there's Andrew Whitworth, who is one of the best tackles of all time. Tony Gonzalez might be
best tight end of all time.
Most likely the best tight end of all time. I mean, Travis Kelce's up there in that conversation. And Gronk. And then obviously Fitzmagic is. You can't hate Fitzmagic.
Well, Richard Sherman does have something in the GOAT debate as the best post-game interview in NFL history. Well, I'm the best corner in the game. When you try me with a sorry receiver like Crabtree, that's the results you're gonna get. I love those Seahawks teams. They just the defense. It's like old-fashioned.
That Legion of Boom was phenomenal to watch. It is very sad to see how it fell apart, though.
All right, so now let's do our Week 3 game picks, and we'll start off, Dylan, with your pick for Bills-Dolphins.
It's going to be a good game. The question is which Tua is going to show up. Is it going to be Tua turn the ball over or Tua during the fourth quarter of the Ravens game?
So who are you going to pick?
I think Bills win it by a large margin. I think the Miami Dolphins are on a high, and I think they're just not coming down ready enough to do that.
I'm taking the Bills as well. But Micah Hyde and Jordan Phillips have both been ruled out for Sunday's matchup. Jordan Phillips has had a phenomenal start to the year. I think it's going to make a difference, especially with Micah Hyde being out. But I'm still taking the Bills. All right.
Yeah.
Bengals-Jets. The Mike White game of last year.
Jets win it. I definitely think Jets win it. I think Joe Flacco looks good. It really matters how. Was Jermaine Johnson ruled out, though?
I would love to pick the Jets. But I think that the Bengals can. There's no way they start 0-3. I have to pick Cincinnati.
Personally, I think if the Bengals start 0-3, then
something's gonna go down. Zach Taylor, maybe a coaching job. All right, let's move on to Raiders Titans. Your pick?
Oh, that's gonna be such a bad game.
Yeah.
If Derek Carr throws to Devontae Adams, Raiders win that, and it's just I don't think the Titans win it. I think the Titans.
I think that's what's gonna happen. I think the Raiders are gonna win. I think they're gonna get their first win on the year. Saints Panthers, Dylan.
Ooh, that's such a hard one. I honestly think Panthers could get their first win in this game. Question is Jameis Winston going to show up as the Saints Jameis or Bucks Jameis?
I don't think that the Panthers have a good enough secondary to intercept those bad Jameis throws. I think the Saints win. I think Chris Olave gets not 1, but 2 touchdowns in this game.
Like that.
Ravens Patriots. I think this one's a pretty obvious pick.
Ravens destroy the Patriots.
Yeah, I think the Ravens are top 7-ish team. I think that honestly was a fluke the comeback. I think the Ravens definitely win that one. Lions Vikings. Now this one's going to be closer, I think, than people think.
I definitely think hot take. I think Lions win this game. It really matters how their defense can hold Justin Jefferson.
That's 100%.
That's the biggest issue. It's not Dalvin Cook. It's not Kirk Cousins. It's not even the defense. It is
Justin Jefferson is that team. He is. Dalvin Cook is a top 5 running back, but Justin Jefferson is the team. You
lock up Justin Jefferson, it's going to be hard for him.
I'm going to go Vikings as well. Or no, you went Lions.
I went Lions.
Eagles, Commanders. This one's pretty easy.
I think Eagles win this.
Pretty handily. Yeah.
I mean, I do wish Curtis Samuel gets yards because I have him as my flex. But
yeah, I think the Eagles pretty handily win.
Personally, as a fantasy defense, I have A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts and Curtis Samuel. I hope it's an offensive battle and the defense does not show up on either team.
Chiefs Colts, I think, yeah. I mean, I know you're a Colts Rams fan, but I mean,
no,
you gotta be
Colts, in my opinion, could be the worst team in the league.
Yeah.
We'll get to news and hot takes in a little bit after we're finished with this and after the break. But yeah, Chiefs win it.
I think that this could be a massacre. Not could be. I think it's going to be a massacre, and the Chiefs win. Texans Bears going to be the worst game of the week.
Oh, it's most definitely. It is in Chicago. There's a chance Bears could go 2-1 right now. It'd be very funny, considering they are one of the worst teams and they would be 2-1. It's honestly, I don't have a pick for that. I really don't. It's just such a bad game. No offense if anyone's a Houston Texans or Chicago Bears fan at the moment, but it's going to be so hard.
I think the Texans win this one. I think that the Bears are probably the worst team in football. That game against the 49ers, the conditions were so specific. It was a fluke game. Texans win that, Chargers, Jags.
Chargers should win that. I really do.
They should win it pretty handily.
Yeah. If the Chargers manage to mess that up, then they really need to reevaluate. And I wouldn't be shocked if in a couple years that Justin Herbert leaves.
Yeah, I could see that. If they don't start making deep playoff runs, I could see that Herbert and Lamar leaving after their rookie contracts expire. Now, your Los Angeles Rams against the Arizona Cardinals, who are on a high right now.
I think that high is going to be their downfall. That comeback, huge, don't get me wrong. I think just that high is not good for them.
I know that the Rams lost in week 1 to the best team in the NFL, and it was week 1. But I think the Cardinals are going to win. I think that the Cardinals legitimately have a shot to win the division after that great second half against the Raiders.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting if that high that the Cardinals had is just going to be their downfall. I think the Rams being in a closer game definitely gets them into the thing of saying we're not the best and we need to work on stuff.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. I do have the Rams winning that.
I think, seriously, the Rams within the next 5 years will be the worst team in the league.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be after Stafford retires
100%.
and once Donald... There's going to be real, but you have to think, we won a Super Bowl. It's not for nothing.
As soon as Donald and Stafford retire, Cup's out of there.
Most likely. Or whatever, yeah.
Battle of two great defenses with two great quarterbacks as well. Packers, Bucks. Your pick.
I think Packers win that.
I agree.
I don't think
100%.
Tom Brady's been that guy. You also have to remember Mike Evans is out, and I think Julio Jones is not playing. So I think Russell Gage is their best receiver right now.
Yeah, the Masked Singer got Tom Brady messed up.
I can't believe this, but going into a game against the Packers, the Bucks actually have the worst receivers in that.
Yeah.
I can't believe I said that. If you asked me that at the beginning of the season,
Alan Lazard is like a quality wide receiver.
Alan Lazard, Sammy Watkins looked better, but yeah,
they still have Randall Cobb too. You can't forget about Cobb.
Yeah,
He's
but
reliable.
The Bucks have the worst receiving core going into that game.
I think that Packers will probably have a really similar season to last season, where they start off bad, but then they get really good. Falcons, Seahawks. This one's gonna be a pretty bad game.
Yeah, I think Falcons win it though. Mariota showed some
agreed
some good stuff last week against the Rams, and Geno Smith the whole team didn't show it.
Yeah, I think the Falcons win that one. Our Sunday night game, which is probably going to be a lot worse game than people would have expected earlier this season, 49ers Broncos.
Yeah, we have to see if he does open up the kitchen actually, because he's just been messing around by himself.
Literally, I think this is probably the biggest toss-up of the week. Both teams have been super disappointing so far. I'm going to go 49ers.
Yeah, it will be interesting because you guys also have to remember that the 49ers do have also a full week to practice with Jimmy G as their starter. So he's getting first-team reps again.
And the game I wish that they vetoed or whatever, flexed out of Monday night, Cowboys-Giants.
All right, so let's talk about this. I personally love Micah Parsons. I have a family member who is a Cowboys fan. I do not think that they're going to win it. I would think it would be hilarious if the Giants do start 3-0.
I think the Giants are going to win. I think the Giants are going to be 3-0. That's an absurd stat.
It's baffling, and I would find it hilarious. So those are our takes and covering the NFL as of right now for the games. We will be right back after this short break. Wanting more updates on stuff that pertains to the podcast? Well, check out Twitter and Instagram at LastMinuteSP for live updates.
Welcome back to the Last Minute Sports Podcast with Sam
and Dylan.
All right, let's get into some other sports news besides the NFL.
Obviously, a lot of this news is going to pertain to the NFL because that's mainly the only sport active right now. Let's start off with something that just ended. Congratulations to the Las Vegas Aces for winning the WNBA title.
Yeah, I don't know too much about the WNBA, but you know what? It's a sports league. Congrats to them.
It's their. I'm pretty sure it's their first ever title in history.
First professional Las Vegas team to win a championship.
Mm-hmm. That is true. So congratulations once again to them. And let's just get straight into the news, shall we?
Joe Hayden retired.
Joe Hayden did retire, former Steeler and Brown. He signed a one-day contract.
Yep. To retire as a Brown, which is where he played most of his career. And he was a 3-time Pro Bowler. Yeah,
let's just skip over to the short news about hockey real quick that we have. PK Subban, major career, 834 NHL games played. Congratulations, great game, great career. And then obviously, the biggest news, biggest contract ever for a NHL player. The Stanley Cup winner, Nathan MacKinnon, 8 years, $12.6 million per year.
Okay, I was about to say that's a
per
really
year.
small contract.
Per year, it's AAV.
So about $100 million.
Yeah, it is the biggest contract ever for an NHL player.
Just like if you think about it, comparing that to the NBA contracts, it's
so minuscule.
Oh my god, yeah. Because the Joker signed the $260 million 5-year deal in the offseason.
Yeah, good for him. Great talent. Obviously, he's your
franchise guy.
He's your franchise guy.
He's gonna carry them for the next.
That is really the only real news pertaining to hockey. Season starts in about a couple weeks.
Yeah, it's getting close.
Preseason starts, I believe, this weekend.
I think NBA preseason starts at the beginning of October. So
we're getting up on that. So more news pertaining to both of those.
Yeah, NBA. Just a little bit. Anthony Edwards was fined for his homophobic comments that he posted on his Instagram story. I mean, it's just disgusting.
$40,000. Yeah, he just didn't need to post.
Completely unnecessary. If you have those thoughts, obviously you should not be saying them. Just keep it to yourself.
Yeah. Let's just get straight into the news pertaining to the NFL. I mean, there's not a lot going on in the NBA and NHL. MLB, Aaron Judge, he's at 60 right now. He's one off of his New York Yankee quote-unquote teammate from 61, Roger Maris.
I saw a clip of people fighting for that home run ball. Apparently the guy that got it, he gave it to Aaron Judge, but he asked for like playoff tickets and he got a sign.
Actually, he didn't ask for anything in return, but Aaron Judge gave him a signed baseball bat and a picture with his group.
You'd hope he would get
tickets. I would assume he did.
Just like Tom Brady did when that 600th touchdown. That guy got the bag. He got Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm. The guy who didn't get the bag was the person who paid for it after.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot other than that pertaining to the other leagues. The MLB, Anthony Walker Jr. Out with a quad. He tore his quad last night in the Thursday night game. A brutal injury. He just went down just in pain.
Yeah. See him carted off the field. It's never something you want to see. Oh, Dane Jackson, we forgot to mention that in the Buffalo game earlier, went to the hospital after a really, really gruesome neck injury.
His neck did not look good.
He got clocked straight
back. Good news, he has full movement, no broken neck, no issue to the spinal cord.
And
he looks good.
He was able to walk out of the hospital on his own. And obviously he's not going to play this week, but as a Bills fan, I hope to see him back in about 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, there is a chance he could come back. It's just the team at this point.
Yeah.
So the last part of the news category that we have is player signings. There's only 2 really major names that have been signed this past week, and one of those is JPP to the Ravens.
Yeah. JPP, he was pretty good on the Giants. Obviously blew his hand off with the fireworks, and he was on that Bucs Super Bowl team. Ravens already have a good D-line. I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Yeah, I mean, it is a cheap pickup for them, so it is a nice help off the line. And then obviously, as a Bills fan, you know this person very well. Cole Beasley gets picked up by the Bucs, but to their practice squad.
To their practice squad only. That's interesting because they are in desperate need of receivers right now with the Chris Godwin injury and the Mike Evans suspension. But Beasley was very good in Buffalo a couple of years. I think that's going to be a great addition.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be like one of those situations where he joins at the practice squad on first, but within like a week or two, he might be up on the active roster. 100%. Sort of like the Jason Peters.
And like Antonio Brown was.
That also. Or like what Marlon Mack is right now. Speaking of which, Marlon Mack is the starter this week for the 49ers.
You know what? I'm a fan of Marlon Mack. I'm actually kind of surprised that the Colts originally drafted Jonathan Taylor because I like Marlon Mack.
Yeah, I really do like Marlon Mack. It's good to see him get picked up again. He was battling injuries. I hope he can get through. I mean, as a Rams fan, I don't like the 49ers, but I do like Mack.
All right, so that's it for our news. Dylan, you want to send us into college football?
Let's go on down to it, folks. It is week 4 now of the college football season, and boy, what a week that's coming up. But first, let's talk about what happened in week 3. Everyone wanted this team to win, and they did it. App State against Troy.
Oh, that last-second Hail Mary to win it, it's like, especially that App State had College Game Day on their campus for that week. That's just awesome to see.
Yeah, App State winning that game with the last-minute Hail Mary was phenomenal. Fans rushed the field. But big props, too. I don't think this person's getting enough props. Number 2, I'm not sure who that is right now. He got that block around to make sure the touchdown would be valid.
So
good for him being a team player. Georgia is them. I think they win another. I really do. Yeah. They just can't. No one can compete. They've given up 10 points this entire season, and they're going into week 4. And their first touchdown was this past week in week 3.
Yeah.
They are them.
They're going to go back-to-back.
Yeah. USF Florida, big rivalry there. In-state versus in-state, public versus public. USF should have won that game. There was a fumble on the last drive that pretty much just knocked them out of field goal range and just screwed over USF. And I'm still shocked that Florida is still ranked.
Yeah.
They're ranked 20th right now.
So that won't stay.
No, it is a tough game. They play Tennessee this coming week.
And our final college game is it was Miami versus A&M.
Yeah, versus Texas A&M. Those are always the questionable games when you have the ACC team who's ranked and thinks they're all big against an SEC team who's also ranked. I personally think Texas A&M is still a good team. That App State loss was a fluke. We were due for a huge upset, and that was just happened to be it.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends that are Miami fans, and they were waiting all day to watch that game. And for Miami to not even score a touchdown, I mean, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, it is rough. Final score was, I think, 17-9. It wasn't a very entertaining game, but it was very embarrassing, in my opinion, for Miami.
Yeah, something different about college and the NFL is that a win isn't a win in college. Like, it has to be a good win to stay ranked.
Those are the major 4 games that we wanted to talk about for Week 3. Week 4 is going to be a phenomenal week in college football, in my opinion.
Lots of ranked matchups.
Yeah, you got Clemson, number 5 Clemson against number 21 Wake Forest. In my opinion, that's a good game.
Yeah, Clemson's finally climbing back up there after losing Watson.
It's going to be interesting.
Lawrence,
I personally think Clemson is a little overrated compared to... I say Clemson.
Yeah.
Yeah, Clemson is a bit overrated compared to what they're ranked. I don't think they're 5.
Agreed.
You got Florida against Tennessee. Tennessee's ranked 11th, so that's 11 against 20, which is also another phenomenal game. I think Tennessee wins that out of the water. Newly ranked Washington upsets Michigan State last week. Not even a slight game. It was, I think, a double-digit upset.
Yeah, I don't watch that much college, but I tend to root for Michigan State because of YouTuber MMG. It's just a fun MMG. YouTuber, yeah.
Yeah, other than that, you got big games like Arkansas, Texas A&M. That's also going to be a great game. SEC ranked matchup. We always love those. Who doesn't? It's going to be a great week coming up. A lot of in-division rivalries like Big 10 versus Big 10, Big 12 versus Big 12, ACC versus ACC. It's just going to be phenomenal. Well, that concludes episode 2. I'm Dylan.
And I'm Sam. And thank you for listening to the Last Minute Sports Podcast.